Ageism in the United States is an issue that doesn't get talked about enough, but is still incredibly dangerous for those affected. There are many ways that older generations fall prey to the changing world and overall cultural shifts from when they were younger. Specifically, we can see through political campaigns that older generations are disproportionately affected when it comes to ageism. It is our job as college students to help combat that issue in any way we can. But before talking about how we as college students can specifically help, we must look at how older generations are being disproportionately affected by political campaigns. We can see this through two specific ways, one being the financial portion and the second being advertisements. So first, talking about financial harms faced by older generations by way of political campaigns. A report by the Federal Trade Commission found that political campaigns are a common cover for financial scams targeting elderly people. They use this tactic to prey on the lack of knowledge that is often seen in older generations. Specifically, these scams often involve fraudulent donations or requests for personal information, which then leads to financial loss and identity theft. This is an extremely dangerous issue because these tactics haven't been around for a long time and most people don't really know how to handle these situations. According to a study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, political campaigns often use deceptive marketing tactics to solicit donations from elderly people. While some may say that this is an incredibly beneficial way to market a campaign, knowingly preying on the vulnerabilities of the generations that came before us is not the way to effectively run a campaign. These tactics can include misleading language, false claims, and emotional manipulation, really just preying on the vulnerabilities that older generations currently face in the United States. In fact, a report by the AARP Public Policy Institute found that political campaigns often use robocalls and telemarketing to target elderly people for donations by using these tactics. And these tactics can be particularly harmful to elderly people who may feel isolated and vulnerable from the society that they once lived in, that they once were the part of the backbone of the country. But next, let's look at how advertisements are contributing to the harms faced by older generations. According to a study by the National Institute on Aging, political campaigns often use ageist stereotypes that reinforce negative perceptions of elderly people. This can lead to a lack of understanding and empathy for the unique concerns that elderly people in our society face. Let's face it, we as the younger generations don't know the struggles that older generations are going through. But when we see how there's a blatant disrespect for older generations in political campaigns and in their specific advertising of those campaigns, we cannot stay silent. Another report by the AARP Public Policy Institute found that political campaigns often overlook the significant contributions of elderly people in our society, such as their roles as caregivers, volunteers, and even once leaders of the country. This often leads to a lack of recognition and support for the needs of the elderly people in our communities because we are really unable to see the true impact that they made on our country. And sadly, the sacrifices and the struggles that they went through when they were in our place are going unheard by current younger generations because that is what political campaigns are trying to do. Political campaigns are trying to drive a rift between the generations and overall separate and isolate older generations because sadly the only useful way that older generations are being seen is for the financial aspect. And we see even through our first main point that political campaigns are using extremely deceptive ways to financially gain money from the older generations. But now let's look at what college students can specifically do and what our plan will implement and how it will solve this issue. Our plan is to create a universal general education credit, which will be called a civic engagement credit. This credit will be enforced in all universities, and public and private, in the United States. What it does is it effectively gives college students a role in political campaigns, advocating for elderly people and the older generations within these campaigns. By creating and getting involved in political campaigns, we can help ensure the unique needs and concerns of elderly people are addressed. We, as college students, can also help promote positive and inclusive campaign strategies that don't isolate one single generation because they're older or younger. But then we are also able to hold these politicians and specific candidates accountable for their actions. We are able to use our voices clearly through the foot in the door that is created through the Universal General Education Credit, the Civic Engagement Credit. So overall, the Civic Engagement Credit will allow for college students to work on advocating for older generations and do the work that currently no one is wanting to do. But you may be asking, well, how is it gonna really enforce? By creating this as a general education credit, it means that everybody who is enrolled in college, no matter their majors, will have to complete this and will have to complete at least a semester, showing that everyone who goes through the college system in the United States will have spent at least a semester in this role, showing that we'll have the continual cycle of people advocating for older generations, because in today's society, we can't let the generation who was in our position once go unheard. Thank you.